Welcome to the Bike Fed's Fall Fundraiser. My name is Kirsten Finn, and I am just finishing up my first year as Executive Director. We wish we could be together partying and celebrating a great year of cycling at our annual Hall of Fame Gala, but we are pedaling forward regardless. I'm excited for the opportunity to share some of what the Bike Fed has been up to in 2020, and for you to hear from some of our sponsors, program partners, and friends. First up, I'd like to introduce Bike Fed Board Chair and Global Advocacy Director for Trek Bicycle Company, Bob Burns.
2020 has been a spontaneously incredible year for cycling here in the state of Wisconsin and all around the United States. All of you I know have seen and saw right after the lockdown hit, all of a sudden, all of us began riding our bikes. And it wasn't just the avid cyclists that were out there riding their bikes. It was bicycles that were coming out of garages that obviously hadn't been ridden in 10 or 15 years, getting fixed up, being worked on, moms and dads riding with their kids. There was a tsunami of enthusiasm and rebirth of cycling that we haven't seen around these parts for a very, very long time. And that, I think, is the overarching positive theme for 2020. You know, the Rails to Trails Coalition measured in March that trail usage on their trail counters was up 200% in March of 2020 versus March of 2019. That was an unbelievable surge. The good news is cycling is still up based on those same counters by 75% in 2020 over prior years. That's a phenomenal mode shift, and it's really good for cycling in the state of Wisconsin. You know, one of the things that I truly believe as the chairperson of the Wisconsin Bike Fed is that the Bike Fed should be here to serve all cyclists, not just cyclists in Madison, not just cyclists in Milwaukee, not just road bicyclists in spandex, but for all cyclists. One of the things that I think is great that's happened this year is for the first time in Wisconsin and all around the country, you're seeing families out riding together. A lot of the work that we as the cycling advocacy community have done over the last 20 years has really begun to pay off, because now we have safer places to ride at a time when we really need it. And we want to keep that momentum going. We really do want to build on the enthusiasm that has spontaneously manifested itself as people have gotten outside for safe recreation during COVID-19. So the first things that we're focused on here at the Wisconsin Bike Fed are funding. Both at the state and the federal level, we want to ensure that we're continuing to drive the advocacy message for increased funding for safe places for everybody to ride. And there's really good news both at the federal level and at the state level on funding. And we are focused on statewide legislative issues that will benefit cycling all over the state. A few examples of that are restoration of Wisconsin's Complete Streets Law. Some of you may know that a few years ago, Wisconsin was the only state in the United States of America to repeal its Complete Streets Law. For those of you who don't know what a Complete Streets Law is, it's very simple. It just says that when the state or county government put in a highway or a street, they need to pave the shoulder and put a stripe down so that there's safe room for pedestrians and cycling. We think that the repeal of that law was wrong, and we think that it should be restored to its rightful place in Wisconsin's statutes. Many of you know that the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Fund, which has created billions in funding to take and preserve Wisconsin's natural resource heritage, not just for cyclists, but for hunters and birders and boaters all over the state of Wisconsin. That's up for reauthorization at the next legislative session in 2020. It is set for a 10-year reauthorization. Both Governor Evers and the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources have put very strong proposals on the table to get that statute reauthorized, and we at the Bike Fed support those proposals and we will be working hard to help the administration and the DNR get those through. We also believe that Wisconsin should have a vulnerable user law. So what is a vulnerable user law? It's basically a law that just affords protection to pedestrians, to cyclists, to any vulnerable user who's out on the street that's not in a motor vehicle, to make sure that they can use the public right-of-way in a safe and enjoyable manner. Finally, we are also working hard to get Wisconsin's eminent domain law restored for cycling and pedestrian projects. You may not know this, but in 2017, the Wisconsin legislature repealed the applicability of Wisconsin's eminent domain law for cycling paths and pedestrian paths. What does that mean? Well, Wisconsin's eminent domain law has been on the books since the 19th century. And what it means is that the government can take and use eminent domain law to put utility lines in. They can use eminent domain law to put a highway in. But they can no longer use eminent domain law to put in a sidewalk for a mother pushing her children in a stroller, or for a cyclist who needs a safe place to ride along the shoulder of a road or a protected bike path. We think that repeal was wrong. We think Wisconsin's eminent domain law has robust protection for private property owners, and we think that the law should be restored to its former state as it's existed for a century, not centuries, for decades in the state of Wisconsin. So the other exciting news that I have for you this year is I want to introduce the Bike Fed's new executive director, Kirsten Finn. Kirsten and I both began in these new roles here in 2020 in the year of COVID. It's been an incredibly challenging yet incredibly exciting year for both of us, and I think Kirsten's done a great job of steering the Bike Fed through this year, and I think there's great things to come for the Bike Fed with her at the helm. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your support. If you're not a Bike Fed member and you agree that we should be working on these kinds of statewide issues for everybody across the state of Wisconsin, then I would ask one last thing, and that is please go on the Wisconsin Bike Fed website, sign up, and become a member of the Bike Fed today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob, for your passion and your leadership in moving our statewide advocacy efforts forward. We're very grateful to Trek Bicycle for their support of the Wisconsin Bike Fed and this virtual event. We'd also like to acknowledge our sponsor, Pacific Cycle, and congratulate them on the 125th anniversary of Schwinn Bicycles. Here to tell you more is the president of Pacific Cycle, Nando Zucchi.
Schwinn turned 125 this year, and it's been a real special year here at Schwinn headquarters, Pacific headquarters, where Schwinn lives. And we kicked off the year with a bike build with a charity that we work with, Together We Rise. We built 125 bikes that went to children in foster care. So we were really excited about that. That was something that got everyone in the building really motivated around the 125th anniversary. We've also gone out and made some special bikes for the 125th anniversary. So we've done some repops of Stingrays, and we did a 125th anniversary edition of the Collegiate, which was a really special bike. It was made in the USA. By Detroit. We worked with a partner in Michigan at Detroit Bikes to hand weld all the frames and do all of the bike assembly in Detroit. So that was a really special program for us, and it has been really well received. And the Stingrays, people always get excited about the Stingrays. We did some special crate editions of the Stingrays to harken back to kind of the old days. And then just this fall, we've launched sort of, hey, what would the Stingray have become if it kept moving forward with a new bike called the Crate Evo. So another way to celebrate the anniversary of Schwinn is to not just look back at the past, but also start looking towards the future. Everybody out there has a Schwinn story. One of the real special things about working on this brand is whenever you talk to someone and you say you work at Schwinn, everyone's got a story about Schwinn from when they were a kid, when they were in college, and that's a really special thing about this brand. There's very few brands in America that can say that. I've ridden around the country this summer. I've had other places where you're fighting with cars, you don't have a sense of protection, and the infrastructure just isn't in place. So to me, that's one of the best things. Plus, it's just a beautiful place to ride. You have everything from urban environments to farmland, and you can hit both of those in the same ride, so it's fantastic. So, as much as I love the infrastructure here, that's always something that can be improved. So in Madison, we have this great infrastructure. Even Milwaukee has a really good infrastructure in the two kind of urban areas in the state, but there can always be more. And the more people feel like they have safe places to ride, that are scenic and offer sort of the sensory experience that they're looking for, but also the feeling of safety, the better. So I think the Wisconsin Bike Fed's done a tremendous job of giving people opportunities to go ride in places that are beautiful, feel special, but also advocating for better infrastructure, more trails, more well-marked trails, and better maintained trails. So that's something that can always be better. As much as I think it's really well done here, it's getting better all the time. It's great to see kids getting on bikes, particularly with the pandemic. We've seen a rise in kids riding bikes, and that's really encouraging. So every year, a little fact, every year since the introduction of the iPhone in 2007, kids' bike participation had been going down. So it had gone down a little bit every year since the launch of the iPhone. We finally have seen that turn around, and we need to keep encouraging kids to get back on, right? They're the future of cycling. If you don't get on a cycle as a kid, you're going to be less likely to cycle as an adult. To me, that's top priority, is getting more kids cycling. And then beyond that, just starting to get more people back into cycling. So as you go sort of up in the age groups, e-bikes are going to help a lot with that, and we have seen helping a lot with that. So the over 50 crowd, they're adopting e-bikes at a really high rate. So it's all of a sudden it's become an activity they're rediscovering. So they rode as kids, they rode as teenagers, they rode as parents, and now they're starting to ride as empty nesters. And the e-bike has really unlocked a lot of potential for folks who maybe had said, I don't know if I want to go back into cycling. It looks like a lot of work. Now they're going out and they're saying, it looks like a lot of fun. The other thing that we really can work on as an industry is inclusion. So like a lot of outdoor activities, inclusion of different races is very important. Biking has, like a lot of other outdoor industries, it's been predominantly white, and the more as an industry we can reach out and make bike cycling more accessible to people of color, the better. So right now, to me, that's a big focal point for cycling. And there's a lot of reasons why it's a great activity to get out, to be healthy, and also as you start to get younger people, give them a sense of empowerment, a sense of freedom, and those are all things that really everybody should be able to enjoy.
Thank you again, Nando, for your support and for Pacific's commitment to our shared goal of bike equity in Wisconsin and beyond. 2020 has been a challenging year for all of us. For the Bike Fed, one of the most difficult parts of the year has been the cancellation of our major bike events like the Ride Across Wisconsin. The cancellation of RAW not only hurt the Bike Fed's bottom line, but also had a negative financial impact on our host cities of La Crosse and Green Bay. The cancellation of charity bike rides and major bike events like the Tour of America's Dairyland has hurt Wisconsin bike tourism and impacted our ability to come together as a cycling community. Here are two familiar faces from Wisconsin bike racing, Samantha and Skylar Schneider.
I am Sam Schneider. I got my start in cycling from my family. My mom and dad both race, so I grew up going to watch my mom race and learned how to walk at the Velodrome in Kenosha. So it's been a family sport for as long as I can remember.
Yeah, and I'm Skylar Schneider, her younger sister. As she grew up watching my mom race, I grew up watching her race. I'm 8 years younger, so for a while I was kind of moving up Cat 4 while she was winning pro races and just dreaming one day being on the start line with her. And we've had the chance to race together for many years, and now we're on different teams, but still, training together.
Cycling in Wisconsin is fantastic. We've got great terrain, great weather. You can ride a different bike in all the different seasons. There's BMX in Elkhorn, there's the Velodrome in Kenosha. We have our designated rides that we learned from our parents. We've got like the Thursday night ride, the 30-mile loop, 20-mile loop. So when we go out training, we say, oh, we're gonna go do China, and that's a route we have. And it's just, yeah, really awesome to be able to just walk out the door and get on our bike and go for a ride.
Yeah, and it never gets boring because in the winter, like she mentioned, you can do cyclocross or fat tire. Somewhere it's totally different bike, and yeah, it keeps it really fun.
Well, the Bike Fed has done a fantastic job of raising awareness for cyclists, and I think just continuing to raise awareness for drivers and while cyclists are on the road is just really the biggest thing to improve, because we've got great roads, great paths, bike lanes, and just continuing to make it safer for riders, I think, is the best. The coronavirus has impacted cycling for me in different levels. For cycling as a professional athlete, it's put a hamper on things, obviously. I never got to race my bike in 2020, but there's been a huge push for bikes. My real estate agent boss bought a bike and is riding to work now, so there's a huge push for more of casual cycling that is really optimistic and really cool to see as a cyclist. But at the same time, it's kind of sad to think, like, I didn't get to pin a number on this year. But as a whole, getting on and riding and staying positive is something we can all...
Yeah, it does bring a different perspective. Instead of training, we're just going out and maybe enjoying it a little more.
Less structure, which is strange, being bike racers for a very, very long time, to just go out and ride and not have a goal for the ride other than enjoy it. So
Yeah, as for next year, I look forward to racing Tour of America's Dairyland again and racing in Wisconsin. It's really cool to tour the Whelen Sprocket here today and hear how they're selling out of bikes, and I think we're in a really good position to keep this momentum going, and having the Bike Fed advocating for bicycle safety and representing all cyclists in the state with laws and having our backs, it really means a lot, and I'm proud to be from Wisconsin.
We're very fortunate being from Wisconsin. There's so many states where cycling's just an afterthought, and being able to be home, walk out our door, and just know that cycling in Wisconsin is on the forefront for the Bike Fed and companies like Whelen Sprocket. It means a lot.
While we have missed bike racing and riding together in large groups, our hearts go out to those across the state who've lost so much more. On a positive note, while so many businesses were closing their doors, the Bike Fed moved into our new home after a year and a half of operating out of the back of a coffee shop. You can now find us in the new Whelen Sprocket store in the Bayview neighborhood of Milwaukee. Here to tell you how this new store fulfills a long-held family dream of creating a true bicycle destination are Noel and Amelia Cagle.
So one of the things my dad would always say, growing up and in the business, is bikes are for everyone. And I believe that. There's a bike for every ambition, there's a bike for every ability. And maybe you're into mountain biking, maybe you're into just riding around the neighborhood with your kids, maybe you're into BMX, maybe you're into unicycling. Like, whatever the reason or ambition is, there's a bike for that. Nearly everybody has a universal experience with riding a bike. And usually it's when they're a kid, and that experience of freedom and the wind through the hair. So that bikes for everyone concept, I think, is part of the slow roll. All you have to do is come as you are, ride any kind of bike. There is no secret handshake. There's nothing special you have to do except ride the bike you have. The overall philosophy is to benefit everyone. And in the bike world, we often get fixated on sort of a certain niche that we happen to be into, and a lot of it is geared towards the high-end enthusiast, and recognizing that most people that ride bikes, they're just average people. There are people who ride bikes. They are not cyclists. They are people that ride bikes. And that's an area where the foundation can help make that experience better. So where we're at right now is the new Wheel and Sprocket headquarters in the Bayview neighborhood in Milwaukee. And this building is about 100 years old. It was formerly a foundry, and we bought it a couple of years ago with the intention of making it our headquarters. But more than just a bike shop, we wanted it to be really a hub of that bike ecosystem in Milwaukee. So as in the building, we have 3 nonprofits. We have the Bike Federation of Wisconsin, we have Rails to Trails, their local office, and then we have the Chris Kegel Foundation as well. As an extension of that, we have a cafe, and the proceeds of the cafe are going to benefit the foundation. So we really feel that this space is the hub for the community, not just a place to buy things, but a place to learn about where to ride, a place to learn about the advocacy work, and a place to grab a bike.
Wheel and Sprocket started in Hills Corners, Wisconsin, which is a tiny little suburb of Milwaukee. And for years and years, we've kind of been in the suburbs, but we've never been able to really be here in the city because until recently, people weren't really living in the city. So here in Bayview, the community has turned into just such a wonderful, family-friendly, bike-friendly area. And we were scouting for years to find a really awesome place to have Wheel and Sprocket's hub. After years and years of looking, we found this really exciting space that if you had been here before, you would have never noticed it. It was nothing to, no one could see the potential except for, our awesome brother Noel, who literally is so good at taking something and creating something new. But yeah, the space is incredible. It's a huge warehouse that is right next to the railroad here, and we've spent months and months and 3 years redeveloping this whole area so that we can have an awesome bike shop. But to us, Wheel and Sprocket's more than a bike shop, and we really believe that it's our job to help create the bike culture that we want to see around us. So one big thing that our dad always wanted was a hub that all bike activity could take place in, because we all know that when you bring people together, great things happen. So here at Wheel and Sprocket, for our new Bayview location, it's not just a bike shop. We have a cafe so that people can gather, so that you can have a drink before or after your group ride. We have in our basement, we have some of the best and the brightest in the industry. Here we've got the Wisconsin Bike Fed, who are our statewide advocates. And fun fact, it's the largest bicycle advocacy group in the nation is here in Wisconsin. So we're good at that. We also have a Willie Caritas from the Rails to Trails organization helping out with the Route of the Badger project, which is incredibly exciting. So we're looking to not just have great biking here in Milwaukee, but we're going to connect the whole state. We have the Chris Kegel Foundation, which we're really continuing our dad's legacy, bringing people together, funding awesome and impactful projects, and doing great events, which I'm always all about, because the second that you bring people together on a great bike ride, it's something that you can remember this really changes people's lives when you can have a really fun experience on a bike and come back to the sport and be like, hey, this is super fun, and look at all these people that you can ride with. So our dad and a lot of the people that he was inspired by really believed in showing up, all right? So it's all about being a part of the solution. So, he wanted to solve for a better world for bikes. So what he did was bring lots of people together and work on the local, state, and national level to achieve those goals. We are so excited to continue that legacy. And, I think it's been the coaching and the prepping and, learning from our dad's experiences that's really helped us see that, it's so hard to work together, but it's often the right thing to do. And so it's really about finding all those connection points that can really make great things happen. So we're really excited to be a part of the advocacy here, on our local level with our bike shops, but also we participate on boards all across the country to help make the world a better place for bikes. When I really started growing up and listening, it was amazing what work was being done. He had always said to me, if you want a bike path, it's like being a farmer. So you got to plant a seed and then watch it grow. But you can't just plant that seed and let it go on its own. You have to nurture it. You have to water it. You have to pay attention to it. And it's through time that great things happen. So I really learned from my father that, it really is the persistency that helps make things happen. It's like pushing that rock all the way up the hill until you hit the precipice, and then all of a sudden things seem a little easier. But bike paths and bike infrastructure are big projects that require top-down and local up work to really make them happen. So I've remembered that, nothing great happens quickly. It's the things that take time that make the most sense, that impact a lot of people for the positive, that end up happening, end up getting funded, which is great.
As you've heard, one of the chief priorities of the Bike Fed is creating safe places for people to ride. We are very happy to be working with our program partner and new neighbor, Willie Caritas from Rails to Trails, on the transformative project, The Route of the Badger.
Rails to Trails Conservancy has been around since 1986, and basically its origin was founded in wanting to convert old railways to trails. They were available, and it was a great opportunity to expand the trail infrastructure. So basically the organization is based in Washington, D.C., but we have satellite offices, 8 of them throughout the country. And I'm here with the Route of the Badger, which is the local Wisconsin project. But Rails to Trails now has shifted from doing individual trail projects, we still work on those and advise on those, but now to working on networks of trails, because networks are better. We want to, there's a lot of trail infrastructure that's already existing, and so now the power of trails is to connect them to be together, to create basically a road system for trails. And so that's what the Trail Nation projects are all about. And the Route of the Badger is focused on connecting the trail infrastructure in the 7 southeast counties of Wisconsin to each other. Currently, there's about 350 miles of existing trail and on-street bike infrastructure. By doubling that, creating a 700-mile network, primarily trail, but some of it on street, it creates a really robust network in the 7 southeast counties. In Racine County, there is an amazing opportunity, and that's with an 11-mile abandoned corridor that Canadian Pacific owns. Now, we've been in negotiations with this. Well, the DNR has been in negotiations to try to purchase this property, this 11-mile corridor, for the last 4 years. The Racine project, there's the White River State Trail. That currently exists, runs in Walworth County and in Racine County. And it's a really beautiful crushed gravel trail. Well, this CP corridor is an 11-mile corridor which would extend that White River State Trail east all the way into the city of Racine. So it would make this amazing connection from basically the lake all the way through to close to Lake Geneva and a little beyond. So it's a really nice corridor to have. When you're looking at trail projects, really, it's not just a trail to go and recreate on. There's so much opportunity, economic opportunity, public transportation opportunity, recreation opportunity, equity opportunity, but they're an infrastructure project. Trails are infrastructure projects, and so they really benefit from bipartisan support because people who are in rural communities as well as urban communities recognize that this is a way to bring economic opportunity and infrastructure to their rural areas. And primarily that's what this CP corridor, this 11-mile corridor is. Fairly rural farmland, real straight, flat. But this project will then be leveraged with, and we're going to try to get EDA CARES Act funding. Now, EDA CARES Act funding will allow for planning, engineering, and construction of trails, as well as potentially bridge building, which there has to be one in this whole project, 11-mile corridor. So, so part of that is working with Racine County, but also working with the Southeast Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, Sewer PAC. They're our MPO, and so they're very engaged in the Route of the Badger. We have them, as well as the Bike Fed, as official partners, one of two other partners in the Route of the Badger. So it's Rails to Trails Conservancy, Wisconsin Bike Fed, and the Southeast Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. That forms a really great three-legged stool in order to advance these projects. Rails to Trails Conservancy started 3 years ago a legislative trails caucus in Ohio. And right now, a third of the legislature is on the Trails Caucus. So this has really helped propel and to establish real champions for trails. And both houses, so it's bicameral support. It's in the House and the Senate, and they've got bipartisan support in both of the houses. So it's really powerful. So we've started one in a Trails Caucus in Indiana, which has already got close to 20 members, and now we're working on that as well in Wisconsin. Wisconsin has such great trail infrastructure, but there hasn't really been an effort to unite everyone around trails. And part of the reason I think for that is that when you consider trails in an urban setting, you think about bike trails and walking trails. But when you're in the urban settings, or the rural settings in northern Wisconsin, they're snow machines, and they're skiing and snowshoeing and mountain biking. So there's a motorized community that uses trails in the wintertime that are actually natural allies to trail users here in the urban areas. What we've seen in the past in Ohio and in Indiana, and what I'm very hopeful for in Wisconsin, is that the more people who are talking about trails as a unit, both motorized and non-motorized, they're going to start seeing the TAP funding, the Transportation Alternative Program, which is the federal funds. And so right now, currently, the state of Wisconsin is able to designate 50% of TAP funding to roads, to highways. And so I think last year Wisconsin got $15 million. Well, 7.5 of that went away. And so why is that? I mean, there's lots of money in roads, and I recognize that roads need a lot of repair, but there's also a greater need, especially in today's day, where we've seen during COVID, trail use went up over 200% for March and April. Now, it's tapered down some in the summer months, but it's still 75% higher nationally than it was last year. And that's because getting out on trails, getting out into the outdoors is a recommended activity during the pandemic. And so, you just see it everywhere. With bike sales through the roof, people are just getting out more. And so there's more need for safe places to get out and, experience trails. So the more that we can experience that, the more that we can educate our legislators about that, hopefully then that 50% funding that had been designated for roads, you say, hey, look, we have an opportunity to build one of the greatest trail systems in the entire country here in Wisconsin. But it's going to take a dedicated effort by those legislators, and they have to speak in one voice. Right now, it's the Chris Cagle Foundation, Wisconsin Bike Vet, and Rails to Trails Conservancy who are in this little hub downstairs. And it's really fabulous because, you know, for me personally, you know, I get to, you know, work with the Bike Fed regularly, you know, every day if I want to. And with the Cagle Foundation, we're developing more of a relationship every day. And so, but, you know, that's where it starts, really. I mean, there could be 50 organizations here. So I just feel really fortunate that they've allowed the Rails to Trails Conservancy to be here, because I know that there are so many great organizations out there that could benefit from being in this area.
During past fall galas, guests have given generously to our Fund a Need to benefit the Bike Fed's mobile repair programs.
On behalf of Milwaukee Mobile Bike Repair Program, I'd really like to thank all of our past donors for their generous support and ask if you were inspired today to give to the program. It's fully supported by donors like you, and so we would love to come back in 2021 even stronger and have a greater impact. So thank you.
For me, I love fixing bikes, and I did it for my senior thesis at my school. That is the second main reason, because I want to give the community something for giving me the opportunity to do this, and it's like benefiting for both parties. And it helped me a lot to speak more with people and stuff like that, and be less shy, because I want to do something for the community. I'm doing what I love to do. Keep going at it. Doesn't matter what mistakes might have been or not, and I grow as a person that I am today.
Everybody is very, very thankful and very gracious to what we're able to offer, and furthermore, they're spreading the word and they're helping support their own communities. I know that we've also been set up here at Neighborhood House. They have a food pantry yesterday, and a lot of the folks that were coming for the food pantry were telling their friends and also bringing their bikes after the food pantry had left. And so the community is just really coming together to support those that need it most, to help them through these tough times. And it's really great to be a part of that. Part of the advantage of our program is we're running mostly on recycled materials anyway. So all of the materials that we've been recycling and storing for a long time have gotten these bikes back together.
Thank you, Wisconsin Bike Fed, for everything what you've done, and an opportunity for this for me, for anyone in the community to do this, and advocating for the bike, for riding safely around the community in the streets and throughout the whole state of Wisconsin.
In Madison, the Bike Fed teamed up with Pepe Barros and Down with Bikes to fix bikes and install fix-it stations in underserved neighborhoods as part of our Just Bikes Coalition's mission.
Hello everyone, my name is Pepe Barros Hoffens. I work for the City of Madison Traffic Engineering Department as a pedestrian and bicycle outreach coordinator. And then during the summer, I also run a program out of a community mobile bike shop called Down with Bikes. It all started a couple of years ago when we did the Unity rides together. So the idea of that project was to gather the whole community, all ages, all colors, everyone together for an afternoon of unity. You know, we could get some food from partners and throw a barbecue out here and have some good fun, bring other partners to lend bikes, to fix bikes, and then everyone together would go for a bike ride. So that's the one. And then after that, the relationship started growing with the community center, and we decided to do some bike adventure camps and also bike mechanics camps. Kids and youth that are coming to the center already, they could sign up for those programs and learn about bike mechanics and learn about how to safely ride their bike in the neighborhood and also go for some bicycle rides. So then that internship would go with a mobile bike shop around town fixing bikes. And the places for these bikes to get fixed would be in certain community centers. So our way to close this cycle, and honor those community centers was by offering them to get one of these fix stations so they can continue to work with their own community after we leave. So the communities we serve actually are from a wide variety, it's a wide range, of communities. We, for example, close to downtown in the Bayview Foundation, we work with mostly Asian people with Asian background. We have worked with Centro Hispano too, where most of the population are from a Latinx background. Actually, half of the interns we have been from the Latinx community, which is great. And then particularly here at Kennedy Heights, the people that they serve is mostly African American neighbors, and sometimes people think, like only white people bike, but that's not true. Actually, they have a lot of motivation into it, and they really want to be heard and to participate. So I think bringing this fix station to Kennedy Heights Community Center is really a way to value them and to honor them and to say, hey, we're listening and we really want you to build up from here and grow from here. I think that this repair stand and the fix station can make a big difference at any community, really, especially because I think it symbolizes memories of people getting together throughout the program too. All the bike rides, the community bike rides we have had together, and all the programming we had with youth at the community center. Then they look at the fix station and it's like, oh yeah, I remember those times. Why don't we bring those times back, right? So I think it's really like an anchor for community to come around this and continue to be curious. And if youth have a mechanical issue, they can remember when they were part of the program and come here and use the tools. And when other community members would like to go for a bike ride, they know they can reach out to the Kennedy Heights Community Center and for some advice, on how to move forward and how to get bicycles, how to get going. So I think it's really the impact is infinite because it really begins a community around it. We're really hoping to get these fix stations all over the place in Madison so we can empower more communities. Right now we're working with two more places, two more locations. They are The Beacon is one, so they work in town with people that are struggling with housing right now, and that's really a good place to have one because most of the people also rely on bicycles as their main way to mode of transportation. And then the other one we have in the works is middle school. We have Cherokee Middle School. So I think this is really a great opportunity for other community centers and other schools and other organizations serving the community to reach out because we do have some more fix stations available. So yeah, that's the message for everyone. We have some of this, so please reach out and get involved.
In addition to helping communities in need through mobile bike repair and fix-it stations, the Bike Fed made community service a focus of Bike Week with a Pedal for Good food drive. Food was collected and delivered by bike in Madison, Milwaukee, Appleton, Green Bay, and Shawano.
Hey everyone, this is Caressa from the Wisconsin Bike Federation, serving here in the Milwaukee chapter. I am the Community Program Manager here in the city of Milwaukee. So Wisconsin Bike Week is a little bit different this year with the pandemic. We planned to operate more events independently, and we also planned on addressing a lot of issues that are affecting our community here in the state of Wisconsin and nationally, one of them being food insecurity. So we decided to run a food drive called Pedal for Good. And here in the city of Milwaukee and in Madison, we're getting food out to food pantries all over the city, and we're trying to give back in any way we can. The food donations come from cyclists throughout the community, including Wisconsin Bike Federation team and the Wheel and Sprocket team. Here in the city of Milwaukee, we're biking to the south side at Tippecanoe Presbyterian and on the north side, Neighborhood House. The Bike Fed has long-standing relationships with community organizations, faith-based organizations, institutions throughout the city and also throughout the state. So many of our contacts come from relationships that we've had for over a decade. We're just pleased that people came out to donate and pedal for good, and we hope that we can come back stronger in the years to come despite some of the issues that we've had with the pandemic. This is actually the first year we have done a food drive, and with all of the support, there's no reason why we shouldn't be doing it every year. And we're really pleased with the turnout, and we hope to only grow that relationship.
Hey, it's Michael from the Bike Fed. We're out today on Brady Street doing a pedestrian action, really working towards a shift in culture where drivers yield the right of way to people that are walking. We've been doing this work for a few years now, and we're out here in the rain. It's been fun. We've been waving flowers. We use our bodies in signs like this and assertive body language to encourage cars to obey the law and yield the right of way to people that are walking or people that are pushing their strollers. We shouldn't have to have a car to do all of our errands. Unfortunately, many people opt out of walking, an essential part of our life, because the simple act of crossing the roads is dangerous. Earlier today, we were with some young people, and they were doing a quick version of our walking wisdom lesson, which was really rewarding to get to do that and teach them how to use their own home base and use that assertive language. So we're the Wisconsin Bike Fed. People ask us, why do I walking stuff? It's because every journey begins and ends on foot. If we can't get the basics down of pedality, walking, rolling, using wheelchairs, and advocating for proper curb cuts, we're not gonna build an environment that's friendly to cyclists either. It's the building block that's necessary to make our state the most bike-friendly state in the country.
Thank you again for tuning in to this video and for your support of the Bike Fed. If you believe in what we're doing, please go to our event website to bid on some great silent auction items, make a donation, or become a member. Together we can make Wisconsin the best place in the state to ride a bike.